Hey everybody, it's Bust, and today we're doing battle with Tempo Warrior in the All Commons Twist. And so, we touched off on Tempo Warrior a few videos ago, but I wanted to circle back to it. This has quickly become one of my favorite decks in the format. It has all of the elements of a deck that I like. It has a lot of aggression to it, it has a lot of card advantage to it, has a lot of interactivity to it, and as we are about to get to this space to where we can hopefully roll over to Legend for our first time, since we started making content over here in Hearthstone, I thought it would be kind of neat if we couldn't get that on video and out there for the world. But nonetheless, again, this is a deck I've become quite happy with, quite familiar with. It has a lot of much more early game elements to it than you would get out of playing Dragon Warrior. The things that I kind of like to call out with this deck, if we want to just scroll through it top to bottom real quick, as far as Execute goes, this is the card that I see most misplayed tons and tons and tons as we're climbing through the ladder. You want to be very conservative in terms of what you want to target with Execute. As I'm out playing against Dragon Warriors so frequently, I typically only want to kill the Twin Terrors. The 412 is typically the only thing that I look to actually kill with an Execute. And so I definitely see people playing this card on turn 4, turn 5 to take down a unit that doesn't matter. Against big decks like Dragon Warrior, you typically only want that singular unit, and you're looking to get 12, 14 stats off of the board for your 1 mana and not remove something small. The game's going to drag on for a while. You can typically be pretty conservative with this. Otherwise, I Know a Guy is fantastic. You have to determine with I Know a Guy if you're going to be dropping the Grimy Gadgeteer. The Grimy Gadgeteer is the main reason to be playing this style, this version of the deck, since there isn't a ton of removal within this format. If you can get the Gadgeteer down protected, there's a very good chance it's going to be giving multiple sets of bonuses to your units throughout the course of the game. And so circling back to I Know a Guy, the big decision you'll make with this is, do I want to try and find a 2-drop so I can drop a big taunt on 2 and have that protect our Grimy Gadgeteer? Or is this going to be a big value-based game to where I need to turn this into a 6 or a 7 drops as we come in and grind things out? Very interesting play patterns that turn up with it. Otherwise, nothing too crazy across the remainder of the beginning of the deck. It's all just very value-oriented cards like Sky Raider, the Lackey Generator, and Slam. Moving into next, the thing to call out is going to be Acolyte of Pain. You run into a lot of spots to where you just get to draw one card with the Acolyte of Pain, but the big thing that we're going to decide throughout the course of these games is if we're going to try and go with big value for this. So if we're going to put the Acolyte down on board, maybe hit it with a Cruel Taskmaster, maybe hit it with an Improved Morale, maybe hit it with a Ravaging Ghoul, see if we can't draw 2 and 3 and 4 cards off of the Acolyte of Pain, as that's the way that we can actually fight through the likes of Dragon Warrior. Just having so much card draw and our cards being cheaper, we tend to be able to just flood out the board in a lot of ways that they can't typically handle. After that, we did make mention of the Grimy Gadgeteer. Again, the main reason to be playing this style of deck, in my opinion, there's just a huge and utter lack of removal spells in this format. So if you can get this down on board and protect it with a taunt unit, it usually gets 2 or 3 activations, and that can give you these humongous tempo swings in the early game to where these bonuses get put on an Acolyte of Pain or get put on a Restless Mummy, and it's just a very tough unit for your opponent to deal with once these stats get distributed. And so I have high hopes, high amounts of success with this guy. Very happy. Otherwise, the only card to me to call out here is going to be the Fungalmancer. I think the last time we played this deck, we were playing 1 copy of Bash and 1 copy of Fungalmancer, and it's a card that I definitely understand cutting, and it's also the card that I am typically most likely to be unhappy about. And so we will see how it plays out today. If you have a more value-oriented card you would like, you could even play the Dragon Generating spell if you want. That fits fine in this space. I wouldn't really recommend going too much cheaper, right? I don't want to go like full-on aggro with this style of deck because that's not really what it's trying to do. But the Fungalmancer is going to be the flex card if it doesn't really fit your wants and desires. This is the one that you could come out and cut. And so that's it. That's what we're doing battle with today. Before the battles begin, though, we got to come out and turn something premium in this one, right? I feel like it's a requirement. If we're going to try and roll into Legend in this video, we got to turn something premium so we can pay to win just a little bit. So I think we are at 1 star in the, Diamond 1 space. So let's see what we can do. All right, yeah, I noticed the Hearthstone deck tracker started pushing this mulligan guide on me. I'm not really certain how I feel about it. I've disagreed with it a lot, and so we'll see that thing pop up as this game comes up against Warrior again. I just assume it's Dragon Warrior whenever they turn up. And as far as these hands go, I do want some cheaper things, but the Acolyte of Pain and Sword Eater are fine, right? If we have to skip through turn 2 without a play, it kind of sucks, but it's not the end of the world. And this gets us on board towards a sort of Acolyte of Pain style of draw, to where we try and make big card advantage things kind of happen. Bit of a bummer. I don't want to run him out, naked on turn 3. If we have to, it's fine, but it's not super ideal. And now the Flunky turned up to make sure we have a good curve. Got to appreciate that. Got to appreciate that. I certainly do, my dude. All right, so let's go. This is a tough one. I'm not the hugest fan of Sleepy Dragon. It's going to be the one that we're going to take. The Genstead Golem, we just don't have the ways to ever make it attack. And the thing that I guess the reason I like this deck more than Dragon Warrior is Dragon Warrior a lot of times just feels like it's going to put down a bunch of stats. And so if they're able to get a large collection of stats on board, you can't answer all of the stats, then they'll probably win the game. And that's just not the angle I feel like is really strong. And that's what you kind of get out of things like Sleepy Dragon making an appearance, is it lets you just put a bunch of stats on the board. Or I'm sorry, the gem-studded golem. It's just a bunch of stats on board. You can't really interact with it or anything. And so while taking a 9-drop isn't that exciting, it's much more exciting than taking a 1. All right, what do we got here? Sky Raider turns up. Kind of on board with it. Like the slam into Sword Eater's fine. Let's see what turns up first with the Sky Raider. All right, good slam now. Acolyte of Pains will get somewhere. And just as much board as we can. It is a pretty reasonable intro into a Fungalmancer. And so this isn't a board that opponent's going to want to Warpath. And so I would assume that we'll get to roll into the next turn and drop the Fungalmancer down. Right? He didn't drop any weapon strikes onto our bros. Got to appreciate that. So here we'll keep the health on the 3/4. He does have the 3-attack weapon. Don't want him just taking down our best unit. So that looks pretty reasonable to me. Should be able to start turning things around from here. Got him. And so I was going to say the thing that I'm starting to look towards in that point is turn 8, when he's going to be able to play the Twin Terror. Whatever it's called, I don't know. It's stuck in my head as Twin Terror. People, the new folks will be like, God, he says these card names also wrong. And the old folks will be like, here comes an Emperor's Diaz on the old Viego deck, huh? Vigio coming through. But no, I was going to say, you're starting to build up to Twin Terror at that point. You don't want your board to just get completely wrecked by the 2 4-damage shots from the dragon. We were ready for it in the sense that we had Execute in hand, but we were going to try and flood the board a little bit so that he didn't just get the full takedown with what we had around. All right, not bad. Hopefully we aren't in for an 11-minute queue. I haven't had that kind of queue problems as far as these goes. It seems like the queue time typically shows up 8 to 10 minutes, and then you get in a game in 1 or 2. So it's not that bad. Knock on wood, I guess. as you're trying to make the big roll into Legend, it probably is going to make you just wait 12 minutes. There we go. All right, what do we got this time? Up against Rogue, sure thing. All right, reasonable enough start. I don't think we need to hang on to Slam here. We'll look for something a little bit more a little bit more early game centric. Everything else can stay. It's wild seeing this. Like, I'm not certain what hand rank means. Hand rank number 14. Like, as I know a guy, really the 14th card you want in your hand at this point. And I don't know. I'm not certain what the algorithm thinks that we're playing here, but I'm typically pretty happy with this on turn 1, assuming we have a Grimy Gadgeteer. This fits into this curve so nicely. Alright, so let's add in the Sky Raider. No real intentions of coining out anything too early here. I'm not opposed to, on turn 2, depending on what opponent does, to improve morale on his unit and try and get the takedown. It's going to be very common here for him to just hero power and attack down our Goblin, but if he does that, he can't play like Jade Stealther or whatever he's called, so see how they take the angles. Got him. We can add in the Flunky. It's the thing that's a bummer with the Flunky is if it gets popped by a backstab, we start running out of tempo, but it's probably worthwhile enough in this space. And here we'll just take the Psychotron. I'm not too happy with those other options there. The 1/5 poison doesn't really get the job done for me. I forget what the other unit was, but it was unexciting. At least get some stats out of the Psychotron. Interesting. I thought we were going to be able to come in and pop the Acolyte of Pain with the Cruel Taskmaster, but not quite the case. Nice pickup with the Grimy Gadgeteer, though. The Gadgeteer's not super safe here. It does die to a backstab plus a hero power or something, but if it gets an Eviscerate, then I usually feel pretty good about that. Backstab hero power, sure. Here come the Jades. Alright, so the only thing here is I don't want to play units that just can't take down an Acolyte of Pain. He's going to get to draw his extra card, and that's fine. But here I'm just leaning towards dropping the Quartermaster first, with the intent that we're also going to add in the Shark Puncher. So ideally on this next turn, we might be able to make some kind of trade off of the Shark Puncher and then boost up the Sky Raider or whatever the opposing pirate is. But again, don't want these 1-power units on board in face of that 1/2 Acolyte of Pain. Sure. I've delivered that one ashore. You got it, guy. So the only bummer here is we don't have a taunt unit. We can make a lot of plays with the Shark Puncher. I guess we shouldn't say we have a taunt in the Psychotron, but we can't play anything else at that point. So let's just start adding some more stuff to the board, see if anything interesting turns up. And hitting a fucking Mech Warper. I had in my head, I had the full intention of trying to go for a boost onto the Shark Puncher and taking down the Miscreant. Like, I don't want him just hitting the Miscreant with Shadow Steps if we can get around it, but it's an interesting addition with the Mech Warper. Who do we hit here? The Rogue unit, quite good. See what kind of Lackeys turn up. Discover a spell, bro. I mean, there's a pretty decent chance we can just flood this board, right? I mean, he's already played the one Fan of Knives, and so I don't think we have to really worry about the second one at this point. So these spells all kind of suck. I just take the shield block. Coming out of these, I want the big rush unit. No, it's not bad. Should be able to start popping off from here. Got a pirate on board, so if he wants to take down our big boy, he can win. This is the thing we don't want to see is him to play a... we don't want him to play a like Trickster into Fan of Knives. but it's tough to do after he's already played the one fan. What do these things do? This is going to cause a problem. If it's a flame ward, that's a serious problem. After a minion attacks your hero, deal 3 damage to all enemy minions. Okay. Well, let's kick it off with the Acolyte of Pain. See if we're getting ourselves into a copy thing. We're not. Alright, so I'm leaning towards this. I'm going to improve morale. Our thing here, whatever bro's called. Go ahead and get the trade and make the 3/4 pirate. Now we'll send in the attack. Assume it's going to be a flame ward. An AoE our team. Yeah. But we still have a reasonable guy on board. Got a bit of juice out of that Acolyte of Pain. Not bad. Now with these cards, I'm sometimes tempted with Bolster, but we'll roll the dice with an unidentified shield. There's a couple of good hits. Gain 10 more armor is not it. You can hit the 5 damage one. You can hit the 5/5 golem one. Bit of a bummer to whiff there, but seems better than the other options. Game, what you got for us here? I think we want to lead with the burglar. See if we don't discover an interesting spell. Otherwise, it's not going to be too powerful with what we can do. Razor Petal Volley is not bad. I don't think we're going to be on a bloodlustable board this game. Probably just hit him with those surprise removals, right? Get into that grind fest. I think we're okay, at least at the moment. He hasn't done anything too scary here. Like, he has a bunch of units on board, but it's not like a threatening collection of units. He's just asking to get hit by a Ravaging Ghoul. It would be a superb pickup if we could hit one. Are we gonna die to? I mean, he's got 4 Razor Petals in hand. I would assume he's trying to line up the Street Trickster next turn. I mean, I guess if we really want to, we can just gain 15 armor. Like, if there's ever a time for it, this is probably it, right? Because we can still just gain the 15, and then take down a unit with the Taskmaster. And then, like with a Street Trickster, those Razor Petals would only be 16 damage, but they've got a long way to go now. Oops. Little whoopsies on the overdraw there. Alright, there's a Trickster. This feels a little preemptive. Oh, sure. That does give us a good amount of time to catch back up here, though. So let's see. Let's kick off with the Lackey. We're going to look to get everything on board here. Ooh, Flame Tongue Totem. Let's get our taunt to the right of that. I'm going to play Acolyte of Pain this turn. The question is, we probably just want it to the left. It's not like he's going to be like, actively attacking this Acolyte of Pain in the next turn. Be shadow stepping. We're going deep on these recalls. I don't know, man. I was talking a lot of trash about that gain 15 armor thing, and I feel like it's done a ton of work, just in terms of making sure we don't die this game. The shield block ready to cause some problems as well. So I mean, this is probably just a Bonemare turn, right? Let's at least see what we draw first. Definitely a Bonemare turn now. This game just should be done at this point, right? There's no way he's going to 36 us, and he's lost a board. So he should have to just be spending all of his cards on our board and not on our face. So it's like, yeah, you want a Street Trickster, you want to play some Razor Petals and shit. You can kill these units, but then could you really still come back and win the game? I don't believe it, but I've been wrong before. See, right, what's his hand? He's got 1 Razor Petal, 4 Razor Petals. So as long as we get the Trickster off the board, we should be okay. I was leaning towards just doing this with the Execute and with the Sword Eaters and such. See what turns up. Probably just want the Hippogriff. Alright, I think we're okay now. Just get that second Street Trickster off the board and then start sending everybody to face. He can send the pew-pews at our dudes, but I don't think that matters. I don't think it matters. Just cast that Razor Petal on himself. Says, you boomed me, bust, you boomed me. Alright, we got him. GG. Gotta get that 1 star. Probably mess this up from here on out. Probably mess it up. That's okay, though. We'll get there eventually. Oof. Fight our way through that queue time. See, it's only down to 10 minutes now. Oh, back up to 11. I've still been monitoring the Legends of Runeterra situation and what's happening with it. It sounds like the latter games have gone down in half. I was curious as to like how the numbers looked. I didn't have a way to see it, but with the deck tracking sites like runeterra.ar and stuff, and seeing how many games all of the top decks have been played, I was curious like what the curve of player games looked like from the time the announcement was made until present, and it's just not there. And so you are starting to see the kind of classic competitive players aren't playing things, like when the Eternal season would roll around and all the competitive players went and played Eternal, and then you would always see like Lurk and Ash LeBlanc become the top decks of the standard meta. That's starting to bubble up. Like for whatever reason, Lurk is only like the number 5 deck in the format instead of number 1, but it seems like the numbers, at least from what I saw people chit-chatting about, have dropped in half in terms of games played. Now, that is typically people in Masters as well, and so there's a lot more incentive for the people that grind out Masters to not want to be there anymore. But
I must protect the wild.
all right, up against Druid. This is always token Druid. We'll definitely hang on to the Ravaging Ghoul. And then we're going to just look for some cheaper plays. This is going to be all about finding something to do in the early game, since we don't interact too well with what they're doing. We don't have a great answer to Soul of the Forest, and so we want to just kill all of their units as fast as we can, since dropping things like Ravaging Ghoul just aren't enough. Opponent doesn't have a 1-drop, though. That's very, very suspicious. Typically, I mean, I guess he did take the full mulligan. You can see the M's on his cards in hand. All right, so he is playing we'll take as much board as we can. So he just had a bad draw, right? To where he had no ones, and that's typically, you know, kind of crushing for these decks in the sense that I know he did just pick up all of the little turtles, but being in the spot to where you want to, you know, spend all of your mana every turn, and if you have a bunch of 2-drops, then you can't play 2 cards on the 3rd turn. So here we have the opportunity for a Ravaging Ghoul. I'm not going to take it. I'm just going to keep pressing in with our units on board, since we only get to use that thing once. Right, he's not going to soul the forest 2 units, and so we would prefer him to, you know, build up quite a bit more board before we use our rarity of AoEs here. You just going directly to face? That's bold. That is bold, my friend. All right, so we do have to clear board now. So let's send in on 1. We'll be taking the attacks across his 2 units here, and then we should probably hit the Mummy down here. Gonna hit these where we can. Drop in the Ravaging Ghoul to get some stuff off the board. Hopefully that'll do. Should we have done this the other way? I didn't want to put the units in hand, but I guess we probably should have. Oh, that is a fast soul of the forest. Right, because then he got the trade on our guy. Probably picked the wrong one there. Now with these, I am okay to just improve morale to get these little guys off of the board. You don't have to be playing for, you know, pure value all of the time. Just limiting what he can do off of a Soul of the Forest or what he can do off of another unit boost is going to be well worth that trade in terms of mana. There's the Crypt Lord. He's a pain in the butt to deal with. He's the most certain executable unit within this deck. Interesting. He's not strong enough to take down our unit at this point. So who do we want to go for here? Do we want to go for a taunt or do we want to go for the double units? I'm not real impressed with the double units here. I think we want to I know a guy and see what turns up. Tar Creeper's pretty decent. Let's look for a spell real quick. Probably just want access to Whirlwind. I could see that being useful. And we'll hold off on attacking at this point. He does have the other twin spell in hand, so we do get to kind of preserve a point of damage if we send. But without a backup weapon in hand, I don't think the strike is particularly worthwhile, especially if we're going to get into a spot to where you know, we just draw and execute later. You did your job, Tar Creeper. Everyone appreciates it. Alright, so that looks a little better, right? Can finally take this dum-dum off of the board. I wish we had a way to get the clear on that 5-1, but I mean, if at the end of the day he trades one of these 2/2s for our taunt and trades his 5-1 for Bonemare, like, he seems incredibly far behind in terms of actually dealing damage. And so I would suspect at this point he's got to be in that mode to where he's just gonna send that squirrel to face, since we don't have a very good way to trade for it next turn. Interesting, he just sold the forests right out. This has to be all hand buffs at this point, right? Yeah. Okay. Still feels pretty good for us. All of these units. Well, does it does it feel good? Not certain if we need to take that back or not. Let's lead off with I know a guy. So it's all on the cheap end of the spectrum. I'm leaning towards the Squirming Tentacle. It's just the most stat efficient one that we're gonna get here. Then we can say like Tentacle and Whirlwind and stuff. We still have the option to just play Bonemare, but I think that that's too slow. What I'm kind of envisioning is we can like use the Whirlwind and the Taskmaster to clear a unit off of the board. And so we can take down something. I guess the 7/3 we can take down with the Bonemare. And then clear out one of these trees. I think that keeps us one away from lethal, right? So if he twin spell plus hero power lets him kill our tentacle. Oh, that's exactly there, isn't it? Fuck. Damn. It's a little bit short. I don't know. I don't know if we missed any damages along the way there or not. That's tough. That's close. If we'd gotten out of that turn, though, even if we'd gotten out of that turn with 1 health, I'm pretty certain we would have won the game from that point. I'm curious, earlier on, I can't remember if it was this game or a different game, to where Whirlwind was in the Discover from the Lackey. I know this game we discovered the 1 damage thing. We discovered the Lackey generator. I can't remember if there was a Whirlwind in that pile or not. That would have been a good target. But that is one of the matchups, like, I don't know, like 3 days ago. I was just playing against Token Druid over and over and over and over and over again. And I was really considering starting to take some of that Fungalmancer space out for a Warpath. But I didn't feel like I was playing it enough for it to really be that relevant. And then we didn't, like, Warpath is just something we don't want in so many other matchups that I was just like, well, that variance is done. You know, we're done with our matches against Token Druid, so let's just leave the Warpath at home. But it's always so tough with the things in there. Like the place we could have picked up that point of damage was we didn't attack the Crypt Lord with our sword. Right, we had a turn to where we waited, and then he twin spelled and got the extra stats on his Crypt Lord and missed some damage there. I just didn't want to assume that we were going to be attacking down the Crypt Lord with the weapon in hand, since you don't have too many options in terms of picking and choosing the unit. Man, there was a couple places in there, right? There was that, and then there was also that Acorn Bearer got to take down our unit. Like, I had in my head that I didn't want him to have the Acorn Bearer active, because then it would get to put the things in hand, and then he could just cast the things on his turn. But that just makes absolutely no sense. So I think we messed a lot of that game up. It's okay, though. We're on our day 12 of Hearthstone, so you gotta give me a little time to get it back together. All right, so if we can win these last 2, though, we'll get the rollover. If we lose one of these, it's just not going to be on video. I'm pretty certain I'll just hit Legend today. It's just going to be a matter of whether or not it's on the old video. I'm not certain how I feel about the difficulty of it. I when I was really into the grind with Hearthstone, I was never in a spot where it was like I wasn't going to hit legend. Like you just hit it every single month. It wasn't a big deal. But it was a difference of whether you would hit it, on like the 21st of the month or the 14th of the month or the 7th of the month, or you were in like the first 100 to do it. And I was never in that like super early race. Like in Runeterra, you had like 4 or 5 people that really put forth the effort to try and grind out, first to masters of the set or whatever. There was always just like way too many people doing it in Hearthstone, and I just didn't have that capacity to play the set comes out at 2 p.m. and then just play until 7 a.m. the next day. Like I never had the desire to do that, but I definitely felt like the progression as to where I was an end of the month Masters hitter, and then after that, I was getting to the middle part, and then after that, I was getting there pretty quickly within the single digit days. So it seems like we're in the middle of the month stage right now, huh? Which isn't that bad, I guess, given I was looking at the collection stats on HS Replay, and there's apparently like 800 legendaries in the game, or 800. Is that what they're called in this? 800 mythics, 800 legendaries, whatever. And I only have like 400 of them. Now I'm not certain if that was like also including premium versions of things, but like even if there's just like 100 legendaries I'm not familiar with, like that's a lot of shit to pick up in a week. So let's look at that hand rank number 4 on Sky Raider. In what world and what situation are you never keeping a Sky Raider in your opener? I'm pretty certain that doesn't exist. Interesting though, picking up the Buccaneer in the hand that has the Sword Eater in it. I don't think we're gonna be able to just run that out. Maybe we can. Like, I kind of have this vision in my head that like, what if we play the Lackey card? Oh, this just works better. I was like, well, what if we play the Lackey card and then we just like offer up the Buccaneer as bait? But I'm pretty certain that we're going to like just play the Grimy Gadgeteer this upcoming 3, and then on 4 we can coin out the Buccaneer and then play the Sword Eater. Like it's not even that big of a deal. I just have in my head this incredible amount of value that we're that we're going to bestow upon ourselves, and so kind of wanting to do it. Here, let's just pass. I envision that there's a way, say like he has his own Sword Eater, that he would be able to, well, I guess he can take down the Sky Raider either way, and this just gives him more options. I was afraid that if we took the trade down onto the Frightened Flunky, that he was going to be able to attack the Quartermaster into our dude, then have direct access into the Gadgeteer, but he was just going to have that anyways. We didn't gain ourselves anything there. So what's he doing here? Is he freaking out because we got our Gadgeteer on board and he doesn't have the answer? Or does he have like 4 answers? And he's saying, do I want to bash? Do I want to play my zombie reborn thing? Do I want to play my Sword Eater? I've got all the choices. Alright, looks like he's starting with Slam. You gonna rope it out, dude? You better decide fast. Alright, another Slam. Alright, well, it wasn't as awesome as I had hoped, but it worked out okay at the end. So do we want to go big? Do we want to, I mean, I just don't think it really matters at this point. Attaching the stat bonus to the Sword Eater. He's just physically playing Haunted Creeper. I don't think he's playing. I don't think he's playing with like the 4/4 dragon, right? That would be the big reason to want to get this stat boost onto the Sword Eater. But seeing him play the Haunted Creeper, I would say that he's playing something much more closer to our deck than to playing something like dragons. But we'll go ahead and take that value. It's a little clunky on these upcoming turns. Trying to get like Acolyte of Pains down, or trying to get an Acolyte and a Quartermaster down. We could probably pretty safely play both Acolytes. You sometimes have to worry about playing double Acolyte of Pain, then your opponent warpaths you 4 times and you draw 8 cards. With us having such a small hand at this point, I'd welcome the overdraws, but
No tomb can hold me. No tomb can hold me.
fair enough. So let's get effective with that mana. Not the greatest collection of bros. I don't think we need the Rabble Bouncer here. The Rotten Apple Bomb just has the highest stat line at this point. I think that's who we'll end up taking. Kind of want to get some version of Acolyte of Pain on board. I guess it's like I'm kind of okay with it if this one just gets hit with Execute. So let's just filter out this slam. Call it a day. Oof.
Someone's gotta lead the charge.
Interesting. I guess there's not a ton of 6s running through these decks.
Love the feel of wind in me sails.
Wait for me.
Okay, well, we don't got the we don't got the Ravaging Ghoul for this. It's okay though. These aren't the strongest units to be out and about with. The thing that sucks here is if we get Bonemared, right? Like Bonemare's on the table, Fungalmancer's on the table. You know, I'm pretty confident he's not playing dragons, so he is going to be playing those cards. But our hand doesn't do anything else otherwise. Like we can't add Rotten Apple Bomb on that board, but I feel like that's the kind of space to where it just helps us not lose. It doesn't really help us win. So I guess it's not really the end of the world if he Bonemare something and sends it into our Acolyte of Pain, but I was definitely hoping to do a little bit better than that. Oh, not either. You gotta choose, my dude. Interesting. Threw away a spider there. Alright, he tries to Dragon Slayer. Doesn't get there in time. And then pretty decent draw with the Sky Raider. We have this Fungalmancer and the Lackey to transform it into something better. I'm pretty on board with that. But we didn't have any units to play if that wasn't the way we were going to go about it. Yeah, let's do. What's this thing? Whenever your hero attacks, gain 5 armor. Okay. I'll take that. Not bad. Not a bad upgrade there. A bit unfortunate we didn't get to make, you know, tempo efforts off of that Fungalmancer, but I mean, with the way that previous turn went, like that was the prime place, that was the prime time to play a Fungalmancer or a Bonemare and take down the Acolyte of Pain, and then just not having it is very suspicious. I mean, as far as his hand goes, he has a taunt, he has a lackey, or hang on, what's this? He has a taunt, he has a spell, random pirate, random lackey, and then another taunt, and so I guess it makes a bit of sense that that's not what's currently in his hand. The old taunted Mechano egg. All right, so how do we want to go about this? I'm leaning towards we're going to mummy, and we're going to mummy and goon into the Mechano egg, take it down, then we're going to slam the big egg and hit it with execute. So that costs 6, then we have 2 mana left over. Like I'm pretty on board with that. We just have to see if we can't find something else to do afterwards.
No tomb can hold me.
Right, so we slam. So that's something to do. Another mummy turns up. We'll bring in the Flunky. Interesting choices with this. Either the Rush and the Hippogriff or the kind of Perma Taunt and the Bone Wraith. I think we probably just want the Hippogriff at this point, right? I mean, as far as having defensive units on board, we've been sitting on this Rotten Apple Bomb for like 100 turns. And so I don't think we need more stuff to sit on. I like the kind of proactive nature that we get out of this Hippogriff. And then his hand is kind of meh at this point, right? And he has 1 taunt and discovering something else here. Like, I think in no way are we behind. All right, he's down to a taunt.
No tomb can hold me.
Let's kick things off. Like, well, we get pretty good clears out of this Restless Mummy. Let's see what guy turns up though. Taunt thing. It's not bad for our Acolyte of Pain at this point. We don't really need the card draw, but I'm never going to complain about how much card draw we have. So let's clear these crappy units off the board. Oh, a guy. We'll just take the most expensive one. All right, I think we're done here. I think this is it. It's gonna take us another 11 minutes to finish off this game, but I think we're there and good to go. That guy's not even that big. We have enough stats to take it down. We got like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we'll have to use the Hippogriff as well. Sure. Alright, he chooses death. He saw the writing on the wall. GG. Get ourselves up into this final battle. We're back up to that win and end mark. See if we can do it. See if we can do it. And man, one of the things I was thinking in these games is you know, we're trying to find a bit of direction after the demise of LOR. And it was like I initially tried to play Magic, and I just couldn't handle the RNG system again as far as the resources within the deck, but I can't handle the RNG of all of this card generation in Hearthstone. I'm not entirely certain, you know, kind of like what brought that about, like how I got that feeling in me, but like with all of the RNG that's happening in those games, it's so much easier for me to just like shrug off. Like, you know, it's like, oh, you swashbucklered into something ridiculous. Like, I don't know if it's just because that's what was more recently in my head, but I can so much more easily handle that than not doing, like, just playing Magic and just not being in a game. It was an interesting thing. All right, let's start getting on board. Not a great collection of taunts here. I don't really like Hired Gun. It just kind of dies to everything. But the Gloom Eater doesn't actually kill anything in this match, is the kind of downside with it. Your opponent gets to ignore it pretty hard. But I guess it can at least hit the board without dying. That counts for something. Okay. Pretty aggressive usage of these Razor Petals. I had pretty low expectations for the unit there. If he got hit with a backstab or something, that would have been fine. It's Quartermaster in. He's got to discover a dragon. Moving right along. I was just kind of assuming this guy was playing a similar deck to that last person. I'm not certain how accurate that is. That previous opponent definitely wasn't playing like Hench Clan burglars. But I think this is okay. We really just need a matter of time here. Ancient of Blossoms is fine. See if we discover something cool. We have a couple of options, right? Marsh Drake is clearly fine, especially in these spaces to where we have the Marsh Drake Ravaging Ghoul combo where we can shoot off these little dragons pretty easily. I think that's where we want to be. With how this game's going, it just kind of feels like this is a matter of... just as long as we don't lose, we'll win. So let's be aggressive with some of this stuff in terms of our not dying. I'm going to go ahead and slam the Burglar. If he wants to take the attack into the Burglar, it's fine. If we build into this Ravaging Ghoul kind of play, because he goes like backstab onto the Flunky, attacks it with the Swashbuckler, then hits his Burglar into the Lackey, I'm pretty okay with that as well. Picks up a Devilsaur. That's not the guy I was expecting. I mean, I think this is probably as good as a Ravaging Ghoul's gonna get, though. The downside to doing this is, like, executing this guy is an execute that we can't use on Street Trickster. And there's a lot of boards to where I just don't care about any of your units, and Street Trickster is the only unit that does matter. But if he just gets to start running ham with that 5/5, we don't have an answer for it. Alright, so these units aren't super important to get off of board. I'm kind of liking just double Gadgeteer. Right? He has the onboard answer to one, which is fine. It's going to take a little bit of work to get both, but it's something you definitely have to deal with this turn, and I don't think he really gets to build a board after doing this, right? So he trades into one, he casts a Razor Petal on another one, casts another spell on the other one. That doesn't leave you with a ton of mana to add additional stuff to the board. Then we still get all these bonus stats in hand. Alright, cool. I'm on board.
I will be your doom. Ready?
That's not so bad, right? He gets a free attack with his Jade Spirit onto a 2/3, but he's got to deal with this big boy now. If he starts bringing Assassinates in on this dragon, it's fine. Like, I'm a little bit more interested in getting this big Ancient of Blossoms on board without getting hit by an Assassinate, so I think it's okay. I don't know. Feels like we're running out of hand. We might have been a little greedy in this one, but
Oh, up to no good. Me too.
the stuff he's doing doesn't really indicate an answer to a big 7/6, and so maybe it is safe. Sure. So what's he got in here? Something from Swashbuckler, a Razor Petal, and a Lackey. Fungalmancer turns up. I mean, he's pretty decent here. I don't think we're at the point where we have to worry about getting burned out. So it does let us do stuff like play the Mummy, hit it with the Fungalmancer, right?
No tomb can hold me.
Got a coin with that. Now we have the effective attack into this thing. I do like the attack into the Jade. So if he picks up a Shadow Step or something, he's not generating additional Jades with that. Now I think it's okay. that's the phrase we keep repeating, right? I think it's okay. Are we just going to face place? Oh, okay. Interesting card to generate off the Swashbuckler. Reincarnate's pretty good here. Getting a Jade. All right. You gotta like everything happening here. Our late game is quite a bit better than his late game, in my opinion. Someone else may disagree, but feels like we have a lot more late game stuff than this guy's gonna have. Bonemare turns up. I was leaning toward just getting the Ancient of Blossoms on board. Like it's such a challenging unit for him to deal with. Huh. Well, I mean, we can pivot out of this Bonemare. Like seeing the Lackey turns up just gives us a lot of options. I feel like I'm a little bit more interested in just using the Lackey onto this Gloom Eater, but maybe this is how we do it. We get the blossoms down, and then just hit with the fungal and just convert the fungal from this point. As Rush, the Rush Dragon, LOL. That might be the wrong choice. We just took down the biggest unit he has. We probably should have taken down the Plague Scientist. If he hits a Shadow Step here, that's going to feel pretty terrible. Him being able to Shadow Step the Scientist and take down our big unit. So if we get out of that happening, I think we'll be okay. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I was blinded by the bigger number. It's just hanging out on board now, though. Acolyte of Pain. Okay. Okay. Uh-oh. I was like, just more Shadow Step opportunities.
Someone's got to lead the charge.
All right, so I don't really want to attack down these Acolyte of Pains. I just don't think we need to at this point. So I'm just going to start blasting. It's going to take quite a bit of work for him to fight through these giant units. He's going to get to draw 2 off of the acolytes, but I don't know. I'm not envisioning that there's a ton of ways for him to both like kill off our giant units and be able to stop all of the incoming damage on the next turn. So I think that's okay. And you do get to see the Gloom Eater just hanging out in our hand the entire game, just doing literal nothing, never finding a time to play. But the other units with his choice here weren't very good, and so I don't feel crazy about that. All right, he's doing a bunch of stuff though, trying his best to get out of this. He got some Jades and stuff. Okay, more things that don't matter. All right, I think we got there. Get that sweet old roll over into Legend. Is that right? Tier 10 twist thing. There it is. Number 23, like LeBron. GG. So not bad. We can pull this up, talk about it a little bit more. I think that those games went pretty well in terms of what you can expect out of this deck. Again, I think we were pretty spot on with the way most of those games went in terms of how we described the deck, and then I think we got in a lot of spaces as well as to where, Fungalmancer just doesn't look that super impressive, and so otherwise, I think it's pretty good. It's become my favorite deck of the format. Is it better than, the big Dragons decks? Maybe, maybe not. At the end of the day, it's probably just a percentage point or 2 in terms of win rate, but I really like all of the extra interactivity you get out of this one that you don't get out of Dragons. And so this one forgoes a lot of the card advantage in terms of interactivity to where the Dragons deck just has a lot of stats. It's a lot more forgiving in terms of just being like, I spent 70 mana in this game and you only spent 45, and so I win at the end of the day. It works out like that to me. Nonetheless, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too. It's going to do it for us today. So if everyone enjoyed the video, maybe learned a thing or two along the way, had a good time watching. This is Bustin'. We thank you for being here.